Welcome home, everybody. This is Angela Rye, your host for today's SoloPod for Native Land Pod. Today, I just want to talk to y'all about Donald Christ, Jesus Trump. I don't really know what's going on, but let's pull this video up where he addresses deciding to make himself look like Jesus the Christ, please.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, "How did they come up with that?" It's supposed to be me as a doctor, making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
So Donald Trump is saying that this image, if we could put the image up, he's saying that this image of him is him as a doctor. He's laying hands on a sick patient. He is holding the light in his hand. It's the American flag behind him and eagles swooping down. Of course, it's all white folks in this picture. I guess because he saw the nurse to the right, he was like, and actually, this could be a doctor too. She got a stethoscope on. So he says that he is portraying himself as a doctor. I have never, ever seen a doctor come through with the red drip on and the little white baggy cloak. Jesus wore Air Jerusalems back in the day. I imagine that this picture, if we could see his feet, he also has on Air Jerusalems. I have never seen a doctor come through with anything other than Hokas these days, maybe some Crocs. Definitely not looking like this in the sick room, as the old folks would say. And where are his gloves? So Donald Trump is trying to argue now that this is not him depicting himself as Jesus the Christ. He's saying that he was trying to portray himself as a doctor. I don't buy it, but I don't buy most of what this man says. Somehow y'all do. So let us now look at what one of his staunch supporters had to say about this image as Dr. Donald Trump. Yeah, right. So Riley Gaines, who is a notorious conservative influencer, had this to say about this image. Why? Seriously, I cannot understand why he'd post this. Is he looking for a response? Does he actually think this? Yes, Riley, where you been, girl? Yes, he thinks this. Anyway, she says, either way, two things are true. One, a little humility would serve him well. This is me looking for humility for him. When has he ever been humble, Riley? Cut it out. Number two, she says, God shall not be mocked. And now the church can say, amen, y'all. Finally, we agree on something. Donald Trump is not humble. And two, God shall not be mocked. But this is what the old black church ladies say. They say your sin will find you out. And slowly but surely, y'all are starting to find out. For those of you on Instagram or on YouTube, come over. But this is what I want to tell y'all. It is so important to understand that this is what happens when you worship a president instead of your savior. So here we are doing this. Now, here's what's amazing about this. Riley was offended at 3 a.m. She saw Donald Trump's response saying that he was a doctor, and Riley completely changed tunes. Let's post this next Riley tweet where she responds to this. This is Riley at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. yesterday. She says, I love the president and I'm so grateful he's in the Oval Office. Of course, I'll continue to support him and the America First agenda. She says, at the end of the day, I do nothing for the approval of man. Our purpose on this earth is to glorify him in all we do. Now, which him is she talking about? I think she back to worshiping Donald Trump. What y'all think? The Truth Social post missed the mark. It's now deleted. Amazing. But we still see it, friend. She says, we're imperfect people. I know I am. I don't get my feelings hurt easy. And I know with the president, it's really not personal. I want to spend eternity in a real place called heaven. I'd love for Trump to be there too. Uh-oh. I hate to break it to her. Anyway, hey, listen, let me just stay on this tweet because I'm about to get in trouble. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I'll keep doing my part by speaking truth and doing my best to lead others to Christ. Let me tell you something. Whatever Christ they're serving, I don't want nothing to do with them. I'm over here in Black Liberation Jesus. I'm over here with Black Liberation Jesus, because their Jesus is the one that had people enslaved. I don't see any difference between how Donald Trump rolls these days, what Riley is posting, him deciding that he's a doctor in the sick room, and then claiming that, that he was not trying to be Jesus the Christ himself. Yes, he was. We are not fooled, and yet God is still not mocked. And I'm going to tell you what else. Speaking of racism in the White House and in Trump land, one thing that was really important for us to understand is how important it was for law enforcement to be held accountable. Strides were made during the Obama administration to hold law enforcement accountable, to put some police departments under consent decrees where they had showed pattern and practice of racist and harmfully violent behavior towards people of color. Additional strides were made under Joe Biden and the Biden administration. We know, of course, that Kamala Harris, when she was a sitting senator, worked diligently to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed. But we know that we still have a lot further to go. And so today, joining me, I have my good brother and friend. He's been working diligently on a campaign called Justice for Big Sam. We're going to talk about that and what happened in Baltimore on February 16th. Joining me now is DJ Quicksilva. Hey, brother, how are you? It's my pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm blessed, but still heavy heart, still mourning, but at the same time trying to keep a balance of fighting for justice daily, which is not easy. But somebody has to, because if I don't, and if we go quiet, that's what they want.
Well, and I think that is very true. They are used to being able to intimidate people, whether it's, victims' friends, victims' family members, all of that. We've seen this over and over again. And I got to tell you, it took a lot for me to finally get to the point of watching the video. But before we watch the video, which I feel personally, and I'm sure you agree, Quicksilva, the video is so dehumanizing. I want people to understand who Samuel Brown was to you. As a 56-year-old father of 6. Yes. You say he's the reason you're in the industry. I want you to talk to our audience a little bit about who he was and then who he was to you.
Absolutely. His name is Samuel Brown, but the world knows him as Big Sam or Dad or best friend. This is a man that is, like I said, responsible for my career. I met Sam back in 1994. Going into 1995, when I really first started my career. His family owned a nightclub in Baltimore called Club Indigo, and that's how I met Sam. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was a 15-year-old kid going into a nightclub, so of course I wasn't old enough to drive, but my dad was dropping me off at the club, and Big Sam, or Samuel Brown, met us at the front door. And I remember my dad saying to him, you better take care of my son. If y'all want him DJ in this club, take care of my son. And Sam's exact words is, and I quote, "Nothing will happen to him that won't happen to me first. I got his back." And he has literally been that since 1995. My right hand, my road manager, my partner, everything. Big Sam has been everything to me. He was also a dad of 6, 4 girls, 2 boys. He once had 7 kids. Unfortunately, one of his daughters passed away. But at the moment when his passing happened, or the homicide happened, he currently has 4 girls, 2 sons. Just a person that his slogan was, "I'm on it," because if Sam says I'm on it, you never have to question it. He was the go-to guy, not just for Quicksilva. He was the go-to guy for everybody, for his family, for his friends. Everybody knew Big Sam. Everybody loved Big Sam. Everybody respected Big Sam. And at the end of the day, Samuel Brown should be alive right now.
Absolutely. And to that end, I think that it is important for us to see what happened on February 16th. So we're going to roll this video. He was pulled over.
Well, let me stop. He wasn't pulled over. He actually was not driving.
No, I meant he was pulled. He was not pulled over by the police. He pulled his car over. You're right. I should have phrased that differently. Yeah. Why don't I let you describe what happened from what you all have found out so far, and then we'll play the video from there.
Absolutely. And the reason why I kind of stopped you there, because some of the narrative from some of the others was saying, well, He shouldn't have been drunk driving, and he got pulled over for drunk driving. And I make it clear, Sam was not drunk driving. Sam did what a lot of us have done, and I'm not saying this right because the trigger word is who's holding him accountable. So unfortunately, Angela, I'm not sure if you ever drink, but I drink every now and then. And if I ever felt myself too drunk to drive, unfortunately, what do? You pull over. So you don't kill anybody. So you don't kill yourself. This is it's not the right thing to do. But most people, if you know for a fact, you get in your car and you realize you're too drunk, instead of killing somebody, instead of killing yourself or harming somebody, you pull over, try to sleep it off, and hopefully you wake up sober enough to drive home. This is what he did. So he never was pulled over for DUI. He had pulled over to the side of the road and fell asleep. When he fell asleep, according to the police records, they said someone called for a wellness check. And that is so important to know because some of the other narrative was it was a DUI stop. It was not a DUI stop. He never got breathalyzed or did anything that proved that he was actually drunk at the moment. So when
didn't get a chance to, and people will see that in the video.
You'll see that in a second.
Yeah.
So the officer was called for a wellness check, and I think that is so important. It was not a DUI stop. It was a wellness check of a man who was asleep behind the wheel. When the officer arrives, and once again, this is all according to the police report. So for anybody who has an opinion, I'm just going to speak facts from the police report. He actually when the officer arrived, he knocked on Sam's window. He asked Sam, to roll the window down. Sam rolls the window down, and unfortunately, you don't see a lot of this in the actual first video. Before I keep going, we've been requesting the full footage as well as the dash cam, as well as everything, so we can see everything. Because according to the police report and what we're seeing, what you're about to show, it takes some of the beginning out that is super important for the case. So as he's rolling the window down, he asks Sam, you okay? Sam says, I'm fine. I'm good. The officer says then he looked at Sam and Sam looked drunk. I don't know anybody who was a genius enough to look at somebody and tell you just look drunk, but he said he looked drunk and his words were slurring. So at this moment, this is probably the most important part. He asked Sam to then get out of the car. Sam then says, if I'm not under arrest legally, I don't have to get out of the car. So him and the officer, I guess, exchanged words. The officer, Derek Hadel, then opens Sam's door. He opens Sam's door. As he opens Sam's door, you'll see in the video, Sam puts his hands on his left thigh to show that I'm not a threat. I don't have any guns or weapons on me. I'm not trying to fight you or anything, because that's another narrative that Sam was just aggressive. But once again, you'll see it in the video. As his hands is on his left thigh, the officer and him are going back and forth. And on purpose, I believe, they cut this audio out of the video that you're about to see. So as they're going back and forth, you then see Officer Derek Hadel slam Sam's door. Now, I want you to just use your common sense. If I think this person is drunk behind the wheel, why would I slam the door? After asking him to get out of the car, get out of the car. So after asking him to get out of the car and slamming his door, you then see Samuel Brown exit the vehicle. Because I know Sam so well and I know his demeanor. I know for a fact Officer Derek Hadel had to have said something to change Sam's mind. Because if I asked Angela Rye to do something 100 times, the answer is no, 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 and all of a sudden the answer becomes yes, what made you say yes? And once again, they muted this part of the audio. So the audio doesn't come in until the officer, I'm not sure if I can curse, I'll use, he says, get the F back in the car. So once again, for all the Instagram lawyers, if I think a man is drunk, am I asking him to get back in the vehicle? Does that make any sense? Because you say you think he's drunk. So after asking Sam to get back in or get the F back in the vehicle, Sam then is trying to say something to him. We can't tell exactly what Sam was trying to say. The officer, Derek Hadel, puts his hand on Sam's chest. At this moment, Sam goes to swipe down to tell him to get off, but Sam actually misses. He missed. Officer Derek Hadel then puts his hand again on Sam's chest. Sam goes to swipe. He never went this way to punch him. He put his and he had his hands behind his back when he first got out of the car. You'll see that in a second as well. To show once again, I'm not a threat. I'm not trying to attack you or fight you. But whatever you said to me, you're not going to disrespect me as a man. So after Sam tried to swipe his hand from touching him twice, Officer Derek Hadel illegally punched Sam in his face twice. Once in the nose, breaking his nose, once in his jaw. From that, Samuel Brown then falls back, hits his head, and he becomes unconscious. So I'm not sure if you want to show the video, and we can kind of walk through it from there.
Yeah, I do want to show the video again. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm on right now with DJ Quicksilva. He's talking about his good friend pictured right here. This is Big Sam, and someone who's a legend, certainly to the DMV area. And right now, Quicksilva is doing everything he can to ensure justice for Big Sam. So we're talking about the case right now. We're going to roll this video so you all can see some of what happened. Again, some of that audio is muted. They're saying that it is for investigative purposes. We can pull the video up, and then you'll also hear some of the commentary. This is the part of the video where we can't hear, but the officer's flashing a flashlight in his face as he's sitting parked on the side of the road. They're in some discussion. I'm just describing this for those who are going to be tuned in audio only. There's some discussion. Big Sam here is pictured in an orange vest. He just slams his door and walks away from the vehicle. And Big Sam is now exiting the vehicle.
With his hands behind his back.
His hands are behind his back. As you said, he puts his hand on his chest. There you go. Here's the audio.
Get in your car, sir. Get in your fucking car, sir. Get in your car.
So this was the part for me, Quicksilva. He's punched him. He makes some type of grunt noise at him. Knows he's unconscious. Proceeds to handcuff him.
It gets worse.
I know, but I'm describing it for the people who are watching. There's a clear gash in the back of his head. He is bleeding from the back of his head. He's flipped him over, called for backup, and is handcuffing unconscious Samuel Brown. He rolls him over with the handcuffs, and you see a pool of blood. He's going in his pockets now. I guess now he wants to identify the man that he's knocked out unconscious, and he begins to put on rubber gloves to, I guess, try to administer some type of aid. You can hear him heaving, breathing, because he knows he's done something wrong.
Yes.
Hey, pressure bandage, pressure bandage, pressure bandage.
He's asking for a bandage
come sit with him.
because there's a pool of blood under Big Sam's face.
Once again, they mute the video
He's
again.
95.
They did mute the video here. I don't know what it means when he says he's 95.
He's breathing.
And he keeps saying he's breathing as if to justify what he's done. You hear the sirens coming for additional backup. It takes a little while for the medics to arrive. Keep saying he's breathing, Quicksilva. He keeps on saying that. At this point, there's another officer on the scene. This officer, the one who punched him, knocked him unconscious, has a gauze pad that he's now placing on the back of his head. The carelessness for which they're treating him is amazing. This is another part where the sound goes out. We don't know what they're saying, but he's trying to apply a gauze on his head and has put his face back in the pool of blood, everyone.
We had to stop him.
They have again redacted the audio here. They said to protect the integrity of the investigation. Still is flopping his head around. Put his head back in the pool of blood again.
Just attach that tag for me.
And you notice he calls for backup and not the medics first.
Correct. And he's
Because-
going through his pockets again.
Because I'm sure the call was that he was attacked. So he wanted to get backup when the call should have been for medics first. But
That's right.
We'll get to that in a second.
That's right. I think what blows me away here is the fact that he's applying this pressure to the back of his head with the gauze, and he keeps placing his face back in the pool of blood.
Because he was untrained. He
And
had
that,
no idea.
no, I'm agreeing with you. Somebody else, another officer's coming with gloves on now,
Good laceration in the back
trying
of
to
his head.
help him. He's saying there's a good, quote, good laceration on the back of his head. They're now lifting his head out of the blood,
Yes, head. I got
and
you.
there's another officer that's come to wrap a bandage around the gauze on his head. I don't know at what point it happens, Quicksilva, but at some point they say they need the shackles.
Yes. It's
They
about to
need
happen
the
now.
shackles. Okay.
Because he's an animal. We need to shackle
Who's
this animal.
completely unconscious.
Put your glove. You can take your friend. I got you. Take him up. You're good.
Here, you want me to hold him up and you hold his head?
Somebody say negative.
Negative. Unconscious, not breathing.
I didn't hear what they were saying negative to.
He's in a recovery position. This is as good as it's going to get for you.
This is as good as it's going to get for now.
I got one more in the car. Feet just.
They, again, the audio goes out.
I got you. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't. Come on.
Y'all, nobody deserves to be handled this way. All of this bandaging up is happening with his hands behind his back. This man has been unconscious the entire time.
Watch your street.
They bring out the shackles. I think I probably talked over when they were saying to get the shackles. But they are at this point shackling an unconscious man whose face has been in the pool of his own blood for the duration of this. Nick, we can cut it from here. I want to go back to Quicksilva.
And one part, and you know, at this point, I can actually watch this video without getting emotional because I've watched this video 1 million. It's okay. I watched this video 1 million times with his family, with our attorney Billy Murphy, just analyzing every single aspect of the video. And like you mentioned, as he is obviously unconscious, and we now know brain dead, they asked for the shackles, which was so dehumanizing. And after shackling him, if you were to continue watching the video, one of the officers that were actually holding his head, he says, and I quote, "Oh man, this is dead weight." Then he starts laughing.
Yes.
He starts laughing.
Yeah.
So mind, just as a man who we now know is brain dead, and my question is, what was so funny? Because there was nothing funny about this incident. So after he's laughing, he then, of course, finally, the medics arrive after minutes of these untrained officers who you can see have no idea what they're doing, making matters worse. Yeah. So one thing I want to kind of just harp on is after, and once again, anything that I say, I want people to fact check me because obviously they haven't been fact checking, you know, things that the officers have put out there. After actually finally getting him into the medics, get him to the hospital, you know what Officer Hadel then does? And this is once again all documented in the police report, but this never made it to social media. He then goes to search Sam's vehicle in hopes that he finds some drugs or weapons. So I can now justify, you know, why we just killed this man. So they go through his vehicle. Of course, there's no weapons in there, but then they go through his armrest and they find some pills. This is all in the police report. So I can only imagine when they found those pills, they probably said to themselves, "Thank you, God. We got something illegal. We have a reason now that we can say whatever." They go and actually test the pills, and the pills come back. It was nothing but his medication. That's it. Nothing illegal. This was his medication that he used because he was actually sick. So now after they test these pills to find his medication, the officer then does a full police report talking about how he was assaulted. And once again, if you watch the video back again, because according to the police report, it says Samuel Brown punched Officer Hadel twice. We now know that was a lie. Samuel Brown never went this direction. He went this direction to swipe his hand away. Now, as my lawyer Billy Murphy said over and over again, when Sam went to swipe his hand twice, legally, Officer Hadel had options. The first option could have been to lock him up. Sir, you attempted, even though you didn't assault me, you attempted to assault me. So by law, I'm putting you under arrest. That's what he could have done. Secondly, let's just say Sam was aggressive. You could have tased him, you could have pepper sprayed him, or you could have did what you're trained to do, call for backup. Officer Hadel, he completely ignored all the legal things that he was trained to do, and he went street. If you try to assault me, I'm going to beat you up. That's the street mentality. Unfortunately, when you become an officer of the law, you don't have the right to punch me legally, especially when you know for a fact I'm not a threat. There's no drugs, no guns or weapons on me. I'm not assaulting you. Officer Hadel then punches him twice. I want to.
No, you didn't do anything wrong. I want to go get into this a little bit because I think it's so important. So again, this happened February 16th of this year. He was unconscious for 11 days. Of course, Big Sam passed on February 27th. But this was not Baltimore County officer Derek Hadel's first issue with police misconduct. He was investigated for police misconduct in 2023 after a deadly car crash. He was assigned to counseling. In addition to that, his own wife, before we even get to his wife, he was also found guilty of damaging a police car where he didn't properly report what happened in April 2024. In fact, he said that nothing happened, that there was no damage to any vehicle involved. And then I also think it's important for people to understand that Derek Hadel's own wife, said that he got irate. This is a direct quote from an article in the Banner. 3 years prior to either of the car accidents, both of the ones that I referenced happening in the same year, she filed a petition for protective order against her husband after an argument turned violent. It says Derek Hadel got irate and began smashing furniture, screaming at me in front of our kids, and broke a door. His wife wrote in the petition, quote, "He threatened to break everything if I didn't come upstairs with him." Now, they ended up dismissing this request because she did not appear.
Really?
And we know normally what happens when people opt not to appear. There's some type of threat or intimidation. What I think is so important here, Quicksilva, and I always got to tie a policy lens into this. This is why people wanted those accountability measures put in place with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This is why that police accountability database that the Department of Justice got rid of earlier this year, to help us understand when officers change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction or state to state, what their background says they are capable of. And thank God for investigative reporting. We know this about Officer Hadel. But you all are saying this man should not be on the street. He does not deserve to wear the badge, right?
At all. He definitely should not deserve to wear the badge. And as of this second, he still has not been fired. He's been on administrative leave, which means he's pretty much just getting paid to be home. And this is something I'm not sure if I told you this. When he was in the hospital for 12 hours before his first of kin was even contacted, which was his daughter and myself. And the question we were asking, of course, the Baltimore County Police Department and the hospital was that, why did it take you 12 hours to actually reach out to us? What were you doing for 12 hours? And we now know, trying to get their story together. Because when I finally arrived to the hospital, what I was told, and I wish that I was smart enough to get the officer's name, but unfortunately at this point, I thought that this happened from a slip and fall. When we first arrived to the hospital, I was told by the officers that were there that Sam was pulled over. Sam got out the car. When Sam got out the car, kind of being belligerent to the officer, I quote, they said the officer had to use force. And when the officer used force, Sam slipped on ice and hit his head. This is what I was told. Sam slipped on ice and hit his head. We now know that was a lie. Like I said in my first initial press report, I said, if there's one lie, we know there's other lies. It wasn't until Sam got out of surgery and when he got back to his room, and I'm looking at him, and once again, I'm thinking that Sam got into it with the police. They got into some altercation, and Sam actually slipped and hit his head. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. When he comes out and I'm looking at him, I see that his nose is bandaged up. He has a black eye, and the whole back of his skull is literally off. So I'm looking at him, and I'm saying, all this happened from a slip and fall? Because once again, y'all never told us that Officer Derek Hadel illegally punched him twice. They just completely didn't say that part. So as I'm looking at him over and over again, and I'm talking to his daughters, like, all this happened from a slip and fall. And thank God, we start asking questions to the nurses and the doctors. But of course, legally, they couldn't say but so much. But what one of the nurses had, I looked him in the eyes and said, "Are you sure this happened from a slip and fall?" And their words was, "I can't say, but all I can say is you need a lawyer." And from that moment, I knew that there was injustice. I just didn't know what. And then day by day, things start coming out about all the lies that were told. And then now we know that the officer punched him. And then, of course, we hire our attorney, Billy Murphy, who really looks into it. And then every single day, we started finding out a lie after a lie after a lie. And then the first 3 days, they actually had officers in the hospital room with him 24/7 claiming that he was under arrest.
Wow.
After 3 days, all of a sudden, the officers leave. So I'm like, was he under arrest or was he not under arrest? Because why are you leaving now? I'm positive that after the 3 days, and once again, this is just my opinion, after the 3 days of them watching the video and realizing it, somebody told somebody, y'all can leave now.
That's right. I wonder now, just given where we are, the fact that you all have uncovered so much, what you're asking the community to do. You all still don't have all the information. There's still parts of this video certainly that are redacted from an audio perspective. I know you want a thorough investigation, but you also have some expectations for this officer. What are you asking the community to do right now to weigh in?
First and foremost, continue saying his name, Samuel Brown, a.k.a. Big Sam, because unfortunately, you know this, and I know this because we're in media. If the public is not outraged, they take their time. If the public is outraged enough, these investigations can actually happen in a month. If no one's talking about it, they can take years to make this investigation happen. So my ask is we have to continue keeping the noise. Of course, our attorney, Billy Murphy, is doing all he can every single day behind the scenes fighting for this. Of course, every day I'm posting about it. I'm talking about it on my radio show. But like you said to me when you first reached out, it can't just be us. We need more people bringing awareness to this case and actually doing your homework, because unfortunately, you know, the public opinion was kind of split because a video came out and it just completely, all the video showed was Sam getting out the car and then an officer punching Sam. So some people are like, oh my God, Sam shouldn't have got out of the car, not knowing the officer asked him to get out the car. So much of the facts weren't there, which had people believing that Sam just randomly got out the car and tried to fight this officer. That 100% is not true. Right. So I want people to do your own homework, do your due diligence, actually look into this case. The police record is public records. So actually read the police records and then ask yourself, is what the police saying the exact same thing or equaling what you're watching in this video? And the answer is going to be no, no, and no. So with that being said, the ask right now is that we're asking that Baltimore County Officer Derek Hadel be fired first. And after fired, we want him charged because we now know that this was deemed a homicide. So now that we know that this was a homicide, which means he was killed at the hands of Officer Derek Hadel. I'm not going to say it's first degree because I don't think this was intentional. I think that he just thought that, you know, this is an officer that we now know has anger problems. And I always say, if a man beats his wife at home, what do you think you're going to do to a person in the streets? So, you know, our ask is that Officer Derek Hadel be fired and charged. And from there, we can continue this fight for justice.
I couldn't agree with you more. Quicksilva, I will just say one other ask that I have for you all is to please reach out to the Maryland State Attorney General, asking them to promptly investigate and thoroughly investigate this matter. You can reach them at 410-576-7070. Again, that's 410-576-7070. The ask is for justice for Big Sam. The ask is for truth to be told. The ask is for violent law enforcement officers to be taken off our streets. They can't handle interacting with our people, and we shouldn't have to interact with them. Our taxpayer dollars pay them, and so we deserve to stay alive, and they ought to be held accountable. So, Quicksilva, I'm so grateful for your time today. Any parting words you have?
I want to say thank you for taking the time out for allowing me to be on your program and help me to spread this word, because, like you say, it's power is numbers. When we come together, you know, we can't be defeated. And like I said, their hopes, when I say they, I mean the Baltimore County Police Department and others involved, their hopes is that this is kind of blows over and goes away quietly. And my job and his family's job, for his daughters, for his sons, for his immediate friends and family, for all the Baltimore and DC and abroad that love Sam, is that, you know, I'm going to do all I can to fight and get the justice that Sam deserves, because I know for a fact this is what he's done for me in my entire life, and I'm not going to stop fighting until we get justice for Big Sam.
Justice for Big Sam it is. Thank you so much for your time today. Welcome home, y'all.
Thank you.
Nobody knows the troubles I've seen,